So we're going to be passing this around. It's going to be funky. All right.
Can you hear me?
Speak now.
Can you hear me?
Talking, but we can't hear. We're just talking. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. My name is Samantha Green, Vice President of the Social Services Human Relations Board, and I'll be serving as acting president for this meeting. This meeting is being recorded. The chat function has been turned off. If members of the public would like to comment on an item, there are multiple ways to do so. If attending via Zoom, digitally raise your hand and Secretary Mana Ayon will announce when it's your turn. You will then have the option to unmute yourself and proceed with your public comment. Email your public comment to Secretary Manayon at gmanahayon@alamedaca.gov before or during the meeting with your name, the agenda item number you're referencing, and your comment. Comments submitted during the meeting before the conclusion of the public comment section will be read into the record. Her email address is also on the meeting's agenda. If you're calling in by phone, please email Mrs. Manayon as we cannot see you raise your hand. You can also dial *9 to raise your hand and we will call on you. To provide a public comment in person, please complete a public comment slip with your name and the agenda item number you are speaking on. You'll be called up when it is your turn. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public has 2, though maybe more, opportunities for public comments. First, under agenda item 2, public comments. Comments from the audience may address matters not on the agenda, but must deal with matters subject to the jurisdiction of the Social Services Human Relations Board. Second, under the agenda item, there will be an opportunity for public comment on a specific item. Each item follows a format similar to City Council meetings. After a presentation, we will ask if there are any clarifying questions from the Social Services Human Relations Board's members or staff. Then we will ask if there are any public comments on this agenda item. After public comment, we open the item up to board discussion and a vote if recommended. I'd like to remind everyone that we're conducting business for the City of Alameda this evening and that this board exists to build mutual understanding, respect, and goodwill among everyone in our community. We ask that same spirit guide us tonight. Please listen with care while others are speaking, just as we hope others will listen when it is your turn. Speaking in public can be nerve-wracking, and we want this to always feel like a safe, welcoming space where every voice can be heard. So that we can protect that space for everyone, California law gives us a few gentle tools to help keep things on track if the meeting is disrupted, starting with a friendly reminder. We don't expect to need them tonight, and we're grateful to share this evening with all of you. I'll call this meeting to order now at 6:22 p.m. We'll start with roll call. We'll start with Chantel Carter, Bernie Wolf, Gerald Bryant, Michelle Buckholz, not here, on her way, and Samantha Green here. From the Housing and Human Services Division, we have Simone Falls joining us online, Gracia Manayon, Program Manager, and Shelby Neal, Administrative Specialist. Now we'll move on to item number 2, non-agenda public comments. The city welcomes speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. Comments from the audience may concern matters either on or not on the agenda, but must deal with matters subject to the jurisdiction of the Social Services Human Relations Board. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments concerning matters on this evening's agenda will be heard when that item is called. Thank you. All right, so then we move on to item 3, the minutes. We'll need to review and approve the minutes from June 25th, 2026. Need a second. Wait. All right, motion to approve. Can we do Do we have enough folks to just do I because we're here in the room? Sorry, can we just do a everyone in I or just okay. Okay. So those that will do I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Never mind. Chantel Carter, Bernie Wolf, Gerald Bryant, Samantha Green, approved. And Michelle Buckles is still missing. All right, agenda number 4. We'll have to vote on Social Services Human Relations Board leadership. So the Social Services Human Relations Board was formed to create an environment which will encourage and bring about mutual understanding, respect, and goodwill among groups of people in the community, and to improve social services in the community. Every member is expected to uphold our shared values of inclusion, understanding, and building a community through greater acceptance. Board members, like all individuals, have the right to hold and express certain views. Those of us who serve in leadership, however, carry responsibility to maintain the confidence of the communities we serve. Leadership requires not only effective governance, but also the ability to bring people together around our shared values. Our board aims to work with transparency, fairness, respectful dialogue, and a renewed focus on the work before us. Every member of our community deserves to know that they are welcome, valued, and treated with respect, even when we discuss matters on which we may not see eye to eye. On behalf of our current board members, I'd like to reaffirm our commitment to promoting mutual understanding, respect, and goodwill among the residents of Alameda from every identity, background, and experience. For this agenda item, we'll discuss candidates for the role of President and Vice President of the Social Services Human Relations Board. After the discussion, members may nominate a candidate by the standard motion procedure. Social Services Human Relations Board's members are not obliged to accept the position, even if the board votes to approve them. Do we have any clarifying questions from the board? Okay, that concludes our clarifying questions. We'd now like to open up for any public comments. Are there any public comments on this agenda item? Okay, this item is now open for discussion and comments by board members. Over to that. Yeah, thank you. So, okay. Do we want to pause and take a break? Do we want to pause and take a break? Or do we want to talk about how it normally goes? The process? Okay. So previously, the way that it's worked at our board is that we have kind of asked if folks were interested in the positions, or somebody would make a motion to ask someone to serve as a president or vice president. Folks would have a discussion, and then essentially we would come to some sort of consensus around the people that would serve as president and vice president. And then there'd be like a formal motion to accept them as president and vice president. We've done it separately. So just voting on president first and then doing a vice president. And then we've also just voted kind of as a ticket, a ballot, where both are combined. So that's kind of how it's worked in the past. Yeah.
Speak loudly or with the mic. So I'm pretty sure she can hear me. I don't even
Projecting wonderfully.
but thank you.
I per I personally think all of you are good people, and I would be happy to work with any of you. I'm not personally interested in a leadership position. I don't know if Chantel is because she's so new, but I would think that the two of you would be the appropriate leaders, and that perhaps the two of you could decide between yourselves what positions you want and how you distribute the responsibilities. That's what I think. I don't think we need much more than that. And I know Michelle's not here, but I have a feeling she would agree as well, because she's got a lot of things going on.
Bernie, I appreciate it. I'm like extremely new, right? So I'm here to like learn the process. I was actually thinking Samantha would be, Samantha and Michelle, but it sounds like Michelle might be, is it pretty busy outside of this? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, right? Okay. I was thinking, should we circle back when she gets here? Is that something that we can do? Okay, because I want to make sure that she has time to speak and, if the opportunity to say if she would like this or not. I'm always happy to step in and learn. And again, this would be learning by fire. So, but appreciate it. Thank you, Bernie. And then, yeah, I think Samantha, for me, I think the role for president just makes sense since you've sat in this vice president role. So.
Maybe
Okay, I was trying to flex without the mic, but it's not working. So I'm going to go ahead and read the description again. So there are three officers of the board: the president, vice president, and secretary. President, who shall preside at all meetings of the board, call special meetings, appoint committees, and perform other proper duties of a presiding officer. Except as otherwise authorized by the board, the president shall sign all correspondence, reports, and other instruments approved by the board. Vice president, who shall perform the duties of the president in the absence or incapacity of the president and in case of the resignation or other permanent absence of the president. The vice president shall perform such duties as are imposed on the president until such time as the board shall select a new president. Secretary, who shall keep a written record of all business transacted by the board, notify members of meetings, maintain the official records of the board, and perform such other duties as the board may direct. And I am the secretary. City staff is always secretary.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Have an opportunity to do good work with good people is a rare thing to find. So I'll do the work that needs to be done, whatever people decide. I'm just glad to know that, like I said, we have an opportunity to do something here that can make a difference. And roles are fine, but the work is more important. So whatever you guys decide, I'll be okay with.
Can we motion to hold this agenda item and then move on to kind of the retreat components while we wait for Michelle to arrive? Because we're going to need her for a vote anyway, correct? Okay. Okay, perfect. Great. Yeah. Of course. Can we just like elbow each other until we come up to a conclusion? Okay, that sounds good. Don't worry, he already knows. I'm pushing it forward. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 4B, the Social Services Human Relations Board Work Group Planning with SMART Goals. So this meeting will serve as a planning session for the 2026-27 work plan. Board members will reflect on their previous work plan as well as develop individual-specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals to work towards the main goal defined in the purpose of the Social Services Human Relations Board discussion. Additionally, data collected from a recent community survey will be presented in order to align Social Services Human Relations Board's goals and activities with the needs of the community. So the first kind of piece that we thought we would go through is just a reflection, asking kind of, I'll go question by question, just to think about kind of what were our most significant accomplishments. This is kind of a basic discussion that we started last month. It felt like it's a very short time period. But what were kind of our most significant accomplishments that we've accomplished as a board? And perhaps you've heard of the accomplishments and can think of those that you find the most interesting. So kind of the most significant accomplishments, those that we're most proud of. And then we'll talk about kind of challenges where we were limited as a board and our ability to kind of accomplish our goals was limited. And then we'll just talk about kind of what we should carry forward into the next year. This was supposed to be kind of casual as we were finishing our meals and our drinks, if that sounds okay. Great. And then after that, we'll kind of go through an exercise with start, stop, and continue. So thinking about items that we want to start in the coming year, items that we want to stop doing, and items that we want to move forward with. So does anyone want to talk about our most significant accomplishment?
Accomplishments that we did as a board, particularly you and Scott, was that volunteer piece where you had all of the volunteer roles in different places where people could go and volunteer, and you put together a small list that turned into a huge list. It was a huge list of people that had tons of volunteer opportunities that people would be willing to do, and it's been quite the thing. It's made its way around the city. So I think that was one of the better accomplishments that the board did, because again, a lot of what we're talking about is community effort and volunteer, and the volunteer positions was really one of them. Volunteers, the volunteer list, yes. That was a big accomplishment. I think you guys did a great job with it as part of the board. The board itself was lifted up all the way. Everybody else came. That was truly a wonderful thing, and it took on a life of its own. And I think we should definitely try and keep that thing going. That's the kind of thing we should try and keep going.
I think the overdose response trainings was a huge one. I think just based on attendance and the community response, I think that was huge for the community. Yeah. And then I think hi. And then I think the other thing was the Road Home was trying to do community outreach meetings. And I think the one that felt like there was the most interest from community members was the one that we did with PTAC, which is the PTA principals, just because there was interest in what kind of services were available through the city that people were unaware of, and could get to know how to either refer people to services or to help, right? Ways of volunteering. Those were going through, sorry, it's okay. We're going through kind of what were our most significant accomplishments that we thought of as a board, or what were we most proud of? And then if there was anything that we were challenged or limited to in our ability that we had planned to do, but were unable to.
I think one of the accomplishment was the Alameda Volunteer of the Year or award. I think that was profoundly impactful for the community and the recipients. The overdose response training One thing that I would say that felt limited was we, as part of the road home, we really wanted to do like this talking tour and how to have people better connect to resources. And I just saw like an Alameda Peeps post of being like, what's the deal with this person that's here? And how do I help them? So I still think there's a lot of, I want that to be like a simple and like going through the comments that was like a really quick, like our community knows what to do. So I think that's an opportunity where we can mobilize concerned community members. So or that there increase the knowledge among community members of how to serve people who are, I would say, both in crisis and who are experiencing homelessness. Oh, you're
I think one of the biggest accomplishments of the board was its cohesiveness and the fact that we each brought different skills to the board, which we were able to use in a synergistic way. And that was reflected in the way that speakers would come before us from different backgrounds and from different organizations, and felt free and comfortable presenting to us what they were doing and what they felt they needed. Because one of the things that I think is most important about this board is not necessarily so much of what we do individually, but what we facilitate for the good of the community.
Okay. Are there any lessons that we want to move forward as we think about things to bring with us? Yeah. So like for me personally, I think we've really concentrated on doing presentations to other boards and other groups with reports that came through, right, through Human Services or point in time count reports and that kind of information. And I think for me, while that information is really important, getting it out there in a different way may be more effective. But the presentations where we're offering trainings or providing additional information on how to connect to resources was much more effective. And so I think changing how we do that community outreach would be helpful, right? So, of course, giving the presentations we have to about the reports, but altering kind of what we spend our time on.
I think mainly what we're not getting to do, or at least we had not had the opportunity to do, was what Doug Biggs said, more of the human relations portion of it than the social services. And that if we were going to do anything and accomplish anything, we should be working with the human relations portion of it. And I think that's one of the things that we should definitely lean into as part of our board. We should be at least seen as a board in the community. When we show up in places and people see us doing good things or just showing up for that, it makes a difference. People recognize and remember you from where you were. Oh, I remember you from that. You guys went over there and you did that. Oh, I remember you guys did over that. I think that human relations portion of it is what really is what we should be leaning into for lessons and be doing.
I think we haven't tapped into our expertise as like a board members. Like I feel, especially our new members. Like I think there's an opportunity, like especially our organizations, of how could we strengthen their capacity? How could we review, I mean, because we don't have teeth, right? Like we have no, I mean, we have some some carrots in terms of funding, but I think what we know from the nonprofit world and the community-based organizations is they're really, as in economic times are really struggling. And so how could we, with the power of the city behind our names, kind of step in and do expertise, consulting? How could we partner with them and just be like, how can we boost folks up? And I don't really know how do we choose which organization and who do we do, that to me, how would we work that out? But I think we have a strong knowledge base that we could think about how we could support those community-based organizations to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be more impactful. Because I think we have an in and we have an intro of like why we're there that I think gives us a foot in the door that other people might not have.
So I've been your secretary for just about a year now. So I have like my own lessons learned on like the dynamics and how I can be the most helpful to you all. And something that I think you all could lean into is that your potential sway with policy. I know people hear the word policy and they don't like love it, but what I mean is if you all show up as a group and push on initiatives or programs that you care about, even speaking up at city council or other commissions, I do think that you all have that influence. It's just about a little bit more organizing around that. If you all wanted to give like public comment or have conversations with other boards and commissions, you have access to that. You also have access to the mayor. Um, and then I think with the human relations piece, something I've learned is I think we can just keep it a little bit more simple. Like we tried to have these large events, which I think were wonderful, and they were things that we hadn't done before, like the screenings and having the panels with young people. But we can also just keep it a little bit more simple if we wanted to do more, as in like tag on to other events that are already happening. Like our communications officer who moved on to another position, she had public events happening all the time. And if we just like, I don't know, got a copy of her calendar and you all showed up with like your name tags or something like that is good. And that includes like we had like a youth career fair. We have another resource fair happening in a soon, right? Oh, right. But we're part, yeah. No, sorry. There is a resource for happening. It is county level, but our division is going to be participating in tabling. That is something you all could also participate in. So there are those opportunities to just to participate and maybe not try to like have our own. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. That's that. I do know what I'm saying, and that is the end of my thought.
Yeah, I think for me that was one of the other things that I was thinking about as well is what are opportunities for us to partner with other community organizations that are trying to do the work that we would like to see happen in the community. And I think also being able to hear from folks kind of what their needs are, kind of going through the community survey that was there and then kind of looking at the reports that have been produced as a community, I kind of realized that we're still missing some information about what the community, what the social services providers really need, right? What they need from the community, what they need from the city, what they need from us as a community. And so I think opportunities for us to connect with those folks and hear what they need would be great. I also think that us getting to know what they're actually providing, right, and how best to connect with them would be really helpful. And I also feel like attending some of those events will provide us with an opportunity to report back to the board about what we hear people expressing as their needs. Right, so if we're at a tabling event with you at a resource fair, we'll be able to hear kind of what folks are approaching you with in terms of the needs and what you're hearing, and can bring that back to the full board. Same thing with, I don't know, attending school board meetings or another city council meeting, just another set of ears to bring back kind of what we're hearing from community members.
I want to, I think we interacted and talked to more people that have lived experience of homelessness, which I remember when we did the road home, we had an individual who was um, at Dignity Village. And so like, I think that was, and previously, I think in the past year that like we didn't really have that as much. And so I'm grateful for the public that came and, talked about needs. I think that was important to do. And that is like a thing that I want more of, is just to feel like this is accessible to people that want to have their voice here. And so how can we spread that?
So we kind of moved on to what should we start doing. Is there anything that we want to make sure we stop doing as a board?
Okay. Sometimes this is my opinion, not very elevated, but sometimes I'm always like, could have been an email. Like and I know we have to do public record, and I know that the like policy, like I know we are burdened by our current system, not burdened, but we have parameters and guardrails, and appreciate how the function of the government. But I think like I want to do more meaty stuff in the meeting. Like I feel like we talk about things that we're gonna just. I feel like we'd have more depth and make more decisions, and like it feels like we talk about the things we're gonna talk about, and then we have to meet in the groups, and then we have to bring them back. So I'd wonder if like I think it. I think the challenge about those meaty conversations is they are public, they are recorded. That feels a little more difficult to make those tough calls, but I'd like to like feel more like we walk down and be like, what did we do today? Like, what did we accomplishment? What did with the decisions? Because sometimes I feel like I'm like, that was quick. That was like it was performative. And so I'd like to put more on our agenda that has a little bit more teeth and make some more decisions and not wait to the subcommittees to do that.
This is going to foreshadow another discussion later on, but I think one of the things I'd also like to see is to get everyone's kind of interest in presentations that we'd like to see as a board, right? Because as a board, we have the opportunity to ask folks to make presentations to us, but it also provides the public with receiving that information, right? And I think if we publicize those presentations, if we work with like whoever the new communications person is to publicize those presentations, we may have more folks that attend the meetings, but also would be able to get that information as well. So that's something I'd like to see. That's a start. Sorry, more guest speakers. Presentation.
My question, I guess, is can we do presentations for the board and public as well? I would think that that would be something that we should be doing. It makes just plain sense. If it's a topic that Bernie has got and he's been working deeply on, he should be able to present it for the board to hear and for the rest of the public to hear. It's a simple way of getting the message across. If I've got a topic that I'd like to do, or if you guys haven't, everybody should be able to do a presentation of some subject that they feel strongly about and make sure that those voices are heard. Because sometimes you can't really get a guest speaker to do that. But having the ability to do that, having this space and this voice is an opportunity for us to do that and maybe take on that responsibility as opposed to waiting for somebody else that we would have to pay or have to cajole into coming out and doing it on a Thursday night.
We always have a speaker and presenter on some issue. And I think it's become very important and very useful. So I think the same should apply to the general board. I know we have speakers who come in, but perhaps we could do more of that. And perhaps some of it could be, as Gerald suggests, can be emanating from the board itself. that would be very helpful to me, and I think it would enhance the amount of public participation and interest.
The other thing I think, I just want to name it. I think our focus has also been on really vulnerable and underserved populations, which is my passion, and I feel from the fellow board. But is that at the cost of the general like, are we serving the needs of all Alamedans? Do we need to give, but like, do we, like, are we also supporting, you know, even if you are resourced, having a child with learning differences, or, you know, like, there are people that are struggling that may be more resourced, but that is still someone who could use more additional support. So I think that it's something to consider, of broadening those who need to connect to social services. And I think that there's, you know, everyone could do support. Like, I saw someone posted, I was like, I can't believe our city is doing this. There was death cafes, and talking about having a space to talk about feelings about death and dying, and creating like a space to talk about that. And I think, remember, you met with the coffee with the chaplains, or the religious folks. Yeah. I think there's something there. I think we maybe, because I remember we talked about our, like, the populations we want to focus on, and they were definitely, but I think in the needs assessment, we did really, there are people, even though I think of like the 20 somethings who are struggling to find jobs, or the high school, you know, like, suffering is suffering, is what I've reached the conclusion. And how can we really create less suffering in our town feels very true.
So for me, social services are generally aimed at a specific subset of people. And the reason for that is because if they were more resourced, they generally have a stigma about accepting social services and the resources that come along with it. And those stigmas, they aren't going away. And so at some level, we have to really look at the ones who are least able to turn away from the system. I was talking with a young lady yesterday, again, lived experiences, talking about lived experiences. She started a program where she had this dream of putting together a group to just talk about problems such as recidivism, alcohol, drugs. And she started very small. She started a Zoom conference call in 2023 when COVID was still going on. And it was maybe 4 people, according to her. And by the end, she said right now they have over 2,000 people who are meeting regularly about these types of programs. And again, these are the people that need the social services. People who are actively looking for the social services are the ones that need them. We talked about a story where she was just doing the little things that I talk about, that she talked about. She said, I used to live over here in Oakland, and there was this group of young people that would sit out on this couch that was sitting out on the corner over there, and you could tell that they were clearly homeless or unhoused. And so at one point she said she made some spaghetti, and she had a whole lot of extra spaghetti left over. She went downstairs and she handed them out plates, or actually she handed them out Tupperware. And they were so thankful that somebody would even think about giving them food. Now, how much did this cost her? Not a lot. She had probably made too much already based on what she had said. But the idea that she started doing it regularly, and that when she would take it out, she'd take it out in Tupperware and they would bring it back. Bring the Tupperware back. When at one point she mentioned one of the ladies offered her EBT card and said, please take my EBT card, and when you make some food, just bring me a plate. And again, these are the people that need these social services. And we need people like her who think about it in terms of this is just how I relieve suffering for other people. Relieving that suffering is what it's really about. And if I'm here to do anything, I'm happy to be the guy to help relieve some suffering. And so social services for the people who need it most. Yes, there's always room for people who are struggling. I talk about things like mental health issues. I think mental health is a strong problem in this community. And we had a board member at one point who was deep into the programs and had a lot of knowledge, and I still carry it with me, the amount of information that she had to offer. And she's the type of person that I keep connections with. I think we should be having those types of conversations. People like her coming out and speaking in these types of things. We have a broad base. We really do. That's what I would think about in terms of social services and our move toward.
Okay. Yes, are you guys ready? Does everybody feel like we've, all right, talked on it? Great. Sure. So talking about more information, getting more information to the board. We so previously we attended the road home is completing like their final sorry, that's not true. So there's a new 5-year plan that's coming up, and the department is pulling together the data, and they hosted these meetings, and I was able to attend those. But we also received the data from the city so that we could look at the data from the community survey that was part of this. And so we put together some slides to look at real quick. So this is the community needs survey from 2026. Okay, so we looked at so there was 328 respondents. There were 16 service statements or questions that were asked, and 84% of respondents live in Alameda. The remainders were service providers. We can go to the next slide. Oh, we really don't need this header, sorry. So who took the survey, right? So 84 lived in Alameda. 26% were cost burden renters. So 30% or more of their income went to rent. 25% worked in Alameda. 16% use or used social services in the past. 10% reported that they were food insecure. So the survey respondents skew older than the city of Alameda census data, right? And so you'll see that that's reflected in some of the survey data. And there's obviously very few young people who participated in the survey. Keep going. Women were also overrepresented in survey, but that's always how it works in surveys. So there's that. A race ethnicity data. So again, kind of overrepresentation of African American and Black respondents. However, that's kind of more reflective of the services for folks that were receiving services and those that are providing services in the community. And then Asian was underrepresented compared to the city of Alameda as a whole. Okay. So 40% were lower income, and lower income was identified as less than $87,500, or the equivalent household threshold for households that reported that there were more than one person in them. Correct. Okay, so then we're moving on to the overall findings. So how do residents rate the city's housing and social services? Okay, so there's a lot in this one, sorry. Mhm. Correct. Yeah. So they're kind of pushed together around highs and lows. Um, right. But among those with the greatest disagreement was around their awareness of affordable housing options, right? Feeling like there was minimal administrative or procedural barriers, and that the system helps people access homelessness, right? Easy to find out where services are available. There's still a lot of folks that find that they strongly disagree with those statements, right? Um, yeah. In the open-ended responses, there's comments about the service delivery and the services that are available. And one of them was just, or a number of them were just really wishing that people were kind in their ability to provide services. So that was kind of one of the few themes that actually popped up frequently among those that felt like they were unhappy with the services, was just feeling like they wish that people had just were generally nicer in their approach to folks. No, so 320 is everybody that responded to the survey. The survey went out. Yeah.
Yeah, so the survey was part of our division is currently working on our strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan. And as part of that, we did like a needs assessment. Oh yeah, that's fine. A community needs assessment process where we invited like a lot of our stakeholders in a room to have discussion. And then we distributed the community survey through our networks essentially. So, but it was also on our website. We did it through email blasts. We did it through our social service providers. We shared through our personal networks. So it really was us just like we did it on social media, I believe as well. But I do think, and I think this is also part of the issue with the awareness is that you start to limit yourself with what our network is. So we were able to reach the people who subscribe to our email list or who go on our website. But I believe we even also passed out paper flyers at the shelters. So we did have like target audiences, which is why you're seeing potentially leaning towards people who receive services, which we really wanted to see. But maybe like the general public, like your mom's book club is the first thing I can think of. Like they're not aware of these community surveys. And that I think is a gap for us. So I did see some people that like, cause I live in the city and I sent it to my friends and my neighbors. So I could see some people responding like, I don't really know anything about this, but I'm responding because it looks good. So that is a gap. And I'm really embedded in that network. And I think that is like somewhere you all have a strength where you're like, you have different networks and different avenues to communicate with the community. So yeah, to hope that answers the question.
And the survey really to that knowledge gap that we have like people do not know, people that are not engaging the survey don't know that exists. And I think because of the current economic climate, how people are really moving on the cards in a way that like I think so many people are so in financial and housing situations, like I think you need that. Me, when I say this, I want people to know what to do with a friend or that, like, yeah. I mean, and I think it's also, I'm not as embedded in the out system, but like, the systems are not easy to access. Like, even if we make everyone aware, it's still like, it's not even a couple of clicks, so you get on the list and then you're on this thing. It's like, that part, even if you're on the right list and you're, yeah, housing referral status. Yeah.
Based on that list that you have before we get it.
Yeah. So I just think like that is brutal, and I don't think we're in like. So I do think we need to remind, even if people know, it does like it isn't. But I think if we can know, if you can be like, I'm seeing some of the domestic violence, but where do I go? I don't think everyone knows.
But again, to your point, the idea that services that we're talking about are so difficult to drive you to the because and by sending you to another city, they've taken care of the problem. Oh, look, they're in San Leandro now. No problem. That's not an answer. Yeah, I agree. I've seen it in San Francisco too, which is why when you said, I'm like, yeah, but see, that's what we're talking about right now. How do you solve the problem? You shift the problem to someplace else and let them deal with it. That's not solving the problem. That's just making yourself look good up there. I don't approve. Anyway, that that's why I feel like, yeah, these service statements are from the people who probably need them the most. And
And also thinking of the folks that like I think everyone needs affordable house. Like I think that even, that is to know like our program, no one knew about or I, like when I tell friends that about that affordable homeowner program, like I don't think that, I think there was a lot of publicity, but there was a gap. And I think it's just, I want people that live in this community to know that exists in our community. And so that like we also combat NIMBYism in a way. Yeah. Because it is happening in our backyard and our communities decided that this is of value. So
The awareness of affordable housing is one of the big things to me, right? Where 42%, right, disagree or strongly disagree. And it's everyone should know whether or not you need it. You should still know where you could look for affordable housing, right? Because someone cannot afford to live here. So yeah, that was one of the big ones for me. Do you want to keep going just a sec? So the next one is, this one was looking at, sorry, this keeps going. I was the lowest rating, yeah. So that's those top. Yeah, I can keep going, that's fine. So then this was where residents want their investment focused. And so the top were around outreach services and affordable housing. With emergency shelter at just 18%, right? We talked about this a tiny bit about how nobody wants permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, or short-term rental assistance. Even though I think as a board, we have a responsibility of reminding folks that in order for us to have a full system of care, we really do have to support all of those programs and ensure that we have permanent supportive housing for our folks that are experiencing chronic homelessness. Just because it is the best practice, right, for ending homelessness. Okay, so then we looked at who rates services poorly. So a respondent is considered a frequent critic if they answered 4 or more of the 16 rating statements and disagreed or strongly disagreed with at least half of the statements that they answered. And so kind of identifying who those folks were. Folks, not forks. Maybe like 28%. So yeah. So vulnerable populations were more likely to rate services poorly, right? So higher percentages on cost burden renters, food insecure, and then those that were actually using or had used social services. And then the folks that lived in Alameda. We can keep going too. Of the 4 lowest rated items, cost burden renters were consistently the most critical, right? So these are folks that are barely making rent or using most of their income on rent. That group and everything but those that we have talked about before with
Yeah, I think that those cost burden renters, we really should also think of them as at risk for homelessness. But I don't think we have thought of I feel like those are probably more under the radar folks, even more than we think, and how do we outreach them?
Renters already know how rocky it is. If you're a renter here in Alameda like I am, you know that the prices are outrageous. If you don't have a great landlord, you might have a management investment firm who really doesn't care and moves people in and out on a regular clip. And so I don't know anyone who rents that doesn't know that they have a rental increase coming, that there's nothing you can do about it, and that it might be enough to make you no longer able to stay. How do we reach them becomes a real question. Your point, how do we reach them? There might I don't know the breakdown of apartment renters versus homeowners here in Alameda, but I can tell you we have quite a few renters. Yeah, and they are the least protected. Well, I take that back. They're not the least protected. They are part of a group that has to have rent control programs put together in order to be able to stay here in Alameda. Because, look, I don't know about you, but I can't afford to pay $4,500 or $4,000 a month in rent, and yet that's what they're going for in some places right here in Alameda. $3,500. That's a paycheck for 2 paychecks for some people in this town, and if they don't have the resources to be able to pay that next raise of the rent, they have to move out. So this is how they see themselves. And so when you say they are more critical, it's because they know that it really is true.
But then that might be our next step. Back to Grecia's point about policy work, is like maybe that is our focus in our work group, is affordable housing, which I think and that maybe we in that affordable housing we think about these rent cost burden renters. I never knew that term. That's a great clear term.
That we had a person from the rent program division come present on the annual plan. That could potentially be one of the guest speakers. I think it'd be great to have them come back. I don't believe they have another annual plan released, but if there's like a specific topic, like if you want to know more about the just like protections in general in the city and its limitations, because there are limitations. The rent control in the city has come a long way since like 2019, but there's still just like unfun fact, gaps like condos and single family homes do not fall under the rent control. So things like that, I can write that down.
Thinking of are then also like opportunities is like, how do we then maybe push that division to be like, what outreach effort are you doing? What are like, how, because I remember being very surprised when I learned all that stuff. And I don't think the average Alamedan knows about that division or that board.
To mobilize that community the next time something like that is on the ballot. Something we could group. Oh. Let's go. All right. Yeah, so I think the big thing was that the majority of folks were talking about affordable housing options, right? That's like the greatest concern and their ability to and then the investment was for outreach services, affordable housing. And that was it.
And I think that also highlights that then part of our like, let's do it is also like that public awareness. Like, what do we do? Like, use that.
Yeah.
They have a website. They have actually like an amazing program. There's a hotline that you call that's staffed during regular business hours. There's an email that they respond to. They have staff committed to just answering the phone and answering questions about the rent control ordinance because that's their entire division. It's the rent control ordinance. So that is their benefit. Um,
Talk more frequently might also be helpful because there's a lot of folks where it's not just about rent being raised, right? Where they fall outside of that. And so where do we find affordable housing if we know we're losing it and there's no other option and there's no right consequence? Because I think that would be great. Although that process, tough. The system is tough, but having somebody talk about it.
Thing about like that the elders senior repair program. Yeah. Yeah. Like I just wonder, and maybe Sam, in your gap, like my gut is that there's just gap, that there's like a lot of people that don't know about it. Does that data reflect that?
About
just like my sense is there's actually more resources.
Yeah. I think that is true. Don't know what the programs are. Yeah. And I think that was one of the other things that I was thinking of too, right? Is folks that are, have this rent burden, are there other programs that would alleviate their other costs, right? So they had more money available for the rent.
Where like we get AI to have the first response, like the Google, like maybe we just need to have Googling the first response and it automatically comes up a Google of this, like that. Maybe that's the thing. We make it more Googleable.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the last things was that this was the data that was most available to us at this exact moment, and it's new. But as a board, we had also reflected on the community needs assessment and some of the other things, and we had identified this does talk about food insecurity and housing and homelessness, but we had talked about other needs that were out there, which were mental health, older adults, youth and families, disability access, just the equity and inclusion components, and then community cohesion and belonging. So those were not included in these. Okay, are we ready to move on to the next component? Okay, great. So we wanted to talk about the overview of our commitments that are already on the calendar or that we know we have signed on to as a board. So the ones that I could think of were the community development block grants, which we have agreed to. The season for nonviolence, which is January to April. We usually participate in a speech contest. Sorry. Thank you. There's a calendar. Right. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, just so folks that aren't seeing this, in January, we have the season for nonviolence planning that happens, our work plan review. We start discussions for the point in time count. And then we do provide input on the CDBG RFP. Maybe. Let's see, sorry. Oh, community event. Thank you. The actual pit count. In February, we had the age-friendly cities survey that was for approval. We will at some point need to talk about age-friendly cities and whether or not we want to continue that or not continue that. We had the Housing and Human Services 6-month update. In March, we have our work plan that begins the season for nonviolence event. In April, we had more work planning, more CDBG recommendations for funding, which was in April. And that's when the nonviolence, this speech contest happens, right? And that's the actual event. Sorry, we need to add that one. In May, we took the CDBG funding recommendations to the board, to the city council. In June, we do the sunshine ordinance refresher. And then we took the work plan to city council. It's supposed to. Probably, yeah, that didn't happen this year. What's the actual date for AUAH? No, what is it? What's the actual date? Oh, it's October, right? Thank you. Okay, so that's when the planning begins is in July. In August, we don't have a meeting. September, we didn't have a meeting. Specific. Okay. That pit count would only happen every 2 years. Yeah. Okay, so November, we review and select our volunteer of the year. And in December, we do the presentation. And then we do the needs statement that's brought to city council in December. Are there any other events that we have recurring? Oh, right. They should probably pop onto this. Board wide. Okay. Okay. So our thought was, are there other commitments that we need to make sure that we're a part of, that we know that happen within the city, that we want to think about as a board? But generally speaking, this is the calendar of events. I think we'll do it after we set our goals and what we want to participate in. Does that make sense? Or what we want to remove. Stop, start, or continue. But there's the calendar. Any thoughts so far on stopping things? Okay, sounds good. All right, so we're gonna move on to goals. So we're gonna like talk about, I asked everybody to kind of go through and make a list, right? In advance of the meeting. So, but we're gonna do breakout time. So you guys can go through those lists, prioritize those, and add if there's anything that you as individuals want to bring forward to the board as a whole to talk about as things to start or to stop doing. I think mostly what we should focus on is things that we want to start doing or continue in the coming year. If that makes sense. Oh, we need to go back. Thank you. Bernie, good job. Can we go back to voting on leadership? Okay. Great. We had to go back to that. I'm so sorry. That's buried. We get, if you need to.
Oh, did we have nominations? How we got? Do we have anyone? Is there anyone? No, no. I really support Sam as president. I I would like, I just feel like I'm not available. And so because I am just in clinic, and then I ditch you guys when the patient thing comes up. I would like to serve. I just feel like you would be not served by my time commitments. So I, I in my heart would like to, but I think it would not be I think it would be a burden on the group to be dependent on my schedule. So is there anyone else that wants to be vice president? Because I nominate Sam as president. Yeah, let's start with. I nominate Samantha Green as president. Oh, Gerald is also wants to be nominated. Could I make the proposal for Samantha as president and Gerald as vice president? Can I nominate as the new dynamic duo? I would like to nominate Sam and Gerald, Sam as president and Gerald as vice president. I put forward a motion for the leadership of both Sam as president and Gerald as vice president.
Throw it out there. I've been in leadership for a while here as vice president, and Gerald has not. However, I feel like it's an opportunity for you, if you would like to be president, to step into that position, particularly as someone who doesn't love to speak publicly. I'm happy to be the person behind you that provides all the documentation.
I appreciate that. No, no, it's all good. Yours was the motion.
Oh, I have to facilitate the vote. Okay.
But the other option is that we could have Gerald as president and Sam. How about, can I? Okay. Sorry, can I modify my proposal? Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I put the proposal as Sam as president and Gerald as vice president. All those in favor? Wait, now, but I just want those two to be, I don't care who's who. Okay.
Being voted on. Correct. I can't facilitate that. Okay. Okay. How many yeses to the vote? Two. And then how many noes? Sorry. I'm abstaining. I'm not voting for myself. Great. The motion did not pass. Okay. You're welcome.
I motion to vote for Gerald as president and Sam as vice president. One second, yeah. Now we're to vote. All those in favor of Gerald as president and Sam as vice president, say aye. Aye. The motion.
So now do I just hand over the microphone to the president? I'm still facilitating. Damn you, God. Ah, okay. All right. So we're gonna do breakout groups to do our SMART goals. So the idea is that we're gonna start looking at our list of activities that we would like to sustain or that we would like to start in the coming year. You guys are stuck with me as a threesome because I'm in both of your groups. You guys will meet together as your group, and then we'll discuss the goals. We want to just talk about like where can the board have the greatest impact when we think about the goals, what issues align most closely with our mission, and then what's realistic given the staff and volunteer capacity that we actually have in terms of volunteers. No, the goal is just to come up with our list of activities that we would like to. We're gonna do, can we run late? Can we run over past 8? Oh, you can't stay over. Okay, so how about this? Yes. So in the next 20 minutes, we can pull together our lists, identify our SMART goals based on that list, and prioritize that list with the activities that we feel are most necessary to achieve in the coming year. Does that make sense? For each of our groups? I think unless the goals do not connect to the group. We're bringing them forward just as our individuals and as our groups. We'll just discuss them and then prioritize them. And then we'll bring them together and talk about our list. We'll present the top 5 first. Does that seem to work? All right. Does everybody already have their existing list that they wanted to bring forward? Okay. All right. We're gonna start. Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. So I think the number one thing I wanted to bring up was I would love to have awareness around the domestic violence awareness month, which is in October. And I think that goes hand in hand with creating awareness as a whole for all of the resources that we can either
I have your email.
showcase on your website or whatever website you choose, right?
Yeah, you can do it.
Oh, okay. Right. Right. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. But we're still talking about task force, right? So it could be task force. No, it's task force and the board. Yeah, it's Bernie. Yeah. Yeah, that could just be like a committee-led initiative saying, hey, we want to, like, if we start our meeting in October, we want to acknowledge that it's Domestic Violence Month, and here are the resources that we want to provide. And then that, I mean, that could just be it, right? Like, yeah. Oh, sure. In all those restrooms in the bathroom. Okay.
Sorry, but off the top of your head, you know how many people responded? It was like 78 or so.
Mhm.
Oh, correct. And negative. Okay. Oh. So that's cool now. So I think we both wanted to, one goal is, continuing to strengthen our and occur with the services. Okay. Okay. Okay.
No. Yeah, I think it's like a mention. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So why not also continue on whether
Sure. And what was your, let me just go back and forth. I just have a few things. That's all. Oh, yeah, so I think, the other one that I have in as a whole is, just kind of going to a lot of these local events to be there. So it could be, like, they had the library con this weekend. Like, I went to that. Yeah, it was awesome. And I would have loved for us to have a table there so people know who we are. And then that's another opportunity for us. So I think, again, that goes hand in hand with, I'm like, yes, love policy, right? But a little more outreach so people know, right? So, and just say, maybe we partner, right? That gives us the opportunity to partner with local organizations. So building those relationships. And I know we have to go to SMART goals, so like we can go at the end and I'll just kind of dot them. Yeah, beta, yeah.
more aware how to connect. And they have programs like that. So there is something already
And then kind of going with,
but I don't want to.
I don't want you to go way up down, but like going with the kind of aligning with partnering with local organizations. I would also mention kind of doing those site walkthroughs, which I think that was part of the SOW, really aligning with ensuring that the resources are being used appropriately, the site visits. I just did, and I want to speak to it at the end, but I just did an outreach with Healthcare for the Homeless last Friday. So that was really, so that was really just a phenomenal opportunity. It was me in the van, right, and like we were in really desolate areas of Oakland, right, like on the shoulder of a highway, and literally meeting with a constituent, right, that they have continued to keep in contact with to make sure that this individual who has experienced now we're trying to get him a social security benefit and trying to prove that this is the person, right? Commissioner for the county. So this is the healthcare for the homeless. Oh, I mean, so we signed up, so basically they gave us a list and they said, sign up with, so I'm saying maybe once a quarter I can do this, right? Again, and it's not just that, I can go do a site visit. I chose to do outreach because I really want to lead the outreach program, but I think very similar, we could say, maybe you guys give us like, hey, these are all the things that we're doing, city, what would you like that's related to social services? What would you like, what would get? Yeah, and you can just choose, it's not mandatory, you can choose not to do anything, you can just, it's just a sign up list, yeah. Is that right? Yeah, like a sign up list. Like actually. No, but does that make sense, Shelby? Okay. Right, exactly. Exactly, right? Right, right, because that goes hand in hand with that SOW. Right, right, yep, okay. Yeah, I think that should be in there, sure. Oh, that's it. Yeah. I never, and I went and saw the movie. I was expecting to see it in the beginning. So, and school was out, right? I thought the students did it, right? So, oh, okay. Mm.
Coming up with a clever committee, but I don't know what your committee.
So I think, just get a time, from like 7:50. Let's tie it up to the smart. So maybe in the middle, we can be smart, right? Cool. So, I'm just gonna quickly looking at some of the, like, so let's focus on maybe quantifying it. So I think let's start off with the easiest one, right? So we have a quarterly task force, which that's quantifiable. Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's done. And then for the awareness, maybe we can, maybe see how many people, like say we have a specific QR code or website, how many clicks do we get? Like that could be quantifiable. Yeah, via website. And
People might be doing that. People, papers and that. So that's part of it. You just like do listening, with events, and meeting. That's kind of why I was like, it's not really questions, but if you all would identify more stuff or get more of a lot.
Sure.
That are not, I don't know, then things
Yeah.
that, I don't know how.
that we can be part of. Yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. And we could do maybe quarterly, right? Like I would say, what, like maybe we say quarterly for that as well. And then, I mean, I guess what I don't know is like, I mean, because I feel that like when you go to Alameda, downtown Alameda, or those random events, but sometimes they're not really, I would say, promote it well, right? Like for Pride, like we could be at the Pride event, right? And say, here are our services for LGBTQ plus, right? Like, so we just need to kind of understand, and I guess that goes hand in hand with the partnership, right? Right. Right. So let's start with something that's measurable and easy, and maybe we say two events a quarter. Do you think that? Yeah. And then you guys can send us a list like, hey, Alameda Pride is doing this. Would you like to show up for that? Or, you know, the Friends of the Library are doing this, right? So, okay. I think, right? Okay. And then the site walkthroughs, again, I think that's just like a sign up list, right? Like, I think you would have to tell us, right? And I think maybe just even doing one a month, again, is still achievable, but I just don't know what that looks like, right? Like, yeah.
October, November.
Okay.
They are usually.
Maybe TBD, just put TBD for site visit, yeah. Yeah. Like a sign up list, but that's how the county did it, the sign up list for, you know, this is the outreach, who wants to do the outreach, who wants to do the walkthrough, and it's really just up to your time, right? It's not mandatory, you don't do it, it's not every month you have to do something, it's because every member has probably something different, like I like to do that, I was so excited to do that, I wanted to see it. You know, I may be less than fine to walk around the building, but, you know, yeah. And maybe you come out of there and do a presentation, yeah, and then how many presentations do you want to do, like, speaking, you know, publicly about the road home plan? I think that kind of goes into those presentations to set to other organizations. Or even the city council. So how is that quantifiable? Did we say we would like to do that once a quarter with different groups? Like, I don't know, right? And I say once, maybe twice a year. Maybe we could say twice a year. Maybe say every 6 months. Yeah, I would say once, yeah, keep it low. Sure. To different, like to any, it could be faith-led, right? It could be a faith-led group. It could be, you know, LGBT. It could be, you know, maybe the Democratic Club. Like, I don't know. Right? I think that's where I think that's where maybe other groups we focus on the target, like who are we targeting, right? So I think we did it. It was all Shelby. Shelby, our Shra, thank you.
We're covering 2 groups right now.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Thank you so much, I love that. I feel like it's right, we don't want to put some, you could have some stretch goals, but I just think let's focus on management. We want to give something to feel good about, right? Yeah. And how long have you been with Shreddy? Okay, all right. So both of you, like 1 year, 2 years? I think like a year and a half? Okay. A little longer. Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay.
But yeah, so and then all
Okay.
for the paper. That's all. Oh, so, okay. Just to make sure if you all are combined committees.
Absolutely. Community. Thanks for the pizza.
I don't need but like influence then.
Right.
And I don't feel like have that. So.
Right.
Yeah. The rep program has a list that we can send it. Like they have their own. They'll take a collaborative.
Okay. Oh, and you mean housing authority waiver? That's a different. I don't know that one. I mean, the people who like start the rec program cover dog shelters from the housing authority. It's also very collaborative. Yeah, we try to like right. We get the data. Right, and right. It's everyone's doing what they need to do. We're going to the shelter, right? So right. Right. Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, we, you know, and it's domestic violence and all of it. Yeah, well, I didn't know. I just went to the apartment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and we were actually kind of shocked. We're like, no, we're fine. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. We're definitely just partnering with people because we could show up and table and, you know, it doesn't cost money to table, especially for representing the city with resources, right? And we can, I don't know what you guys have for flyers or like, loose weeks.
So when I look at that, I'm like, okay.
Okay,
action
okay.
goals. I know how to just work.
Okay.
Action goals, do this every year.
Okay.
Action goal, we have like ideas.
Okay. Do you have like a banner of sorts?
I'm like,
Okay.
a little bit.
I mean, just something to think about, right?
But yeah. That's all.
Right.
I'm not gonna go fiddle.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, the center.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 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 Okay. That's great. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. I would say like a banner for if you guys just put a little note, maybe a banner for your, for tabling it. For people's games. Yeah, I don't know, how does it go? Yeah, like what? Right, right, because what if we say it's shrub, right, we're covering social services and human relations, right? So we can have everything on the table, right? So whatever you have for housing, whatever you have for domestic violence, like we would have everything, we would have the spread. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I just got done doing a whole bunch of tabling from Rod. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna just give myself a slice of. Okay, okay. I might get this, I might get this.
I don't know.
I don't think
I don't think like that. You got like with the regular. Yeah. And we don't have to keep it in the book then. Do that.
one of the things I saw, compared to tell you something, you know, compared to say like, sure, let's try anything, and now I'm like, I can see them, I can see it on the right wall, and I don't want to see it kind of feel it. So. Like for me, that's like, I feel like
Second was, long, recorded, using what the various.
which I think is actually connected already. Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah. All right. Are we ready to come back as a group so we can move on? I think you still have quorum until Michelle will pull out. What? 4?
Oh, yeah. Like that, log out. I call. Well, yes, and that's why I brought my laptop, and just in case I got a call.
Sorry, we have to keep going.
Yeah. Sure, sure. Oh, do I need a mic?
No worries. Okay, so we started off with some goals for the Domestic Violence Committee. One of the number one goal is to create awareness aligned in October with Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we would like to continue to have our quarterly task force meetings, and again, targeting those hard to reach communities. I'll skip the middle because I'll tie it all together at the end. For the larger portion of the board, I think we would love to attend local events. Again, focusing on partnering with local organizations, speaking publicly about road home plan. And again, this goes back to those presentations, whether we're presenting to city council and or focusing back on those local organizations, right? Creating community. Site walks, this is part of the SOW. And I would say just kind of working with the city in itself, right? Organizations. And so circling back to the SMART goals, focusing for the Domestic Violence Committee, we talked about the quarterly task force, so that's quantifiable. Regarding creating awareness for October Domestic Violence Month, maybe creating a special website or a special link that provides a lot of awareness, and then really kind of looking at the data analytics of how many clicks came through. Then for our shrub awareness, or just attending local events, really keeping it achievable, maybe not putting too many stretch goals at the moment, but focusing on maybe 2 local events quarterly, which I think is doable. And recently, maybe I actually went for Alameda County. I went on an outreach with Healthcare for the Homeless, which I thought was an amazing opportunity. I'll speak to that later. But maybe create a sign-up list for walkthroughs and outreach opportunities. And so board members can sign up. Obviously, this is volunteer for us, but we can sign up with what we have available regarding our resources. And then again, focusing on the biannual presentations. And I think that's good too. So where I think that's quantifiable and it's achievable. Right. I don't want to speak for Bernie. I think, again, I think when we talk about just maybe violence in general, right? That's just like awareness in general, right? But I think focusing specifically on domestic violence, I would like to keep that. Yeah. So, what's up?
Yeah. So I think this would be for the goal for more of those doing the road home, which I think is more focused on housing and people experiencing homelessness. We want to continue the evaluation of social services and resource mapping. We want to continue the Volunteer of the Year awards. This sort of then became more about trainings for the general population of the city, as well as improved like awareness of resources. we'd like to do a MLK volunteer day or help with existing events, connecting more volunteer resources and community belonging, and then a national night out connection to CERT that would be promoting belonging. And the next one, do you want to flip the? But we were thinking that that the group would consolidate and be about belonging and connection. Belonging at home. Belonging at home. What do you? I love that. But we could workshop it. That
So just to do it quickly, we had a list that we went through. A lot of what we have kind of overlaps with some of the things that others are doing in the group, so it's really interesting to see. First on the list was to revise and advance the Alameda United Against Hate Action Plan for the Shrub and City Council consideration. Host one United Against Hate Week public event, a food class, and partner with Chris Tam, who's already doing similarly in Oakland. Conduct quarterly listening sessions. We were trying to decide how we're going to do it. We're going to probably just start with one. Right. Yeah. And so it would essentially be listening circles with community groups during the needs assessments and site visits. Exactly. Number 4 was partner with AUSD. We're going to probably look back at that one. That's something that we're going to discuss. Number 5, develop a quarterly community lecture or learning series. Right now, we're going to start with one and work our way through. Number 6 was build and maintain a stakeholder partnership map and advisory network and partner with Chris Tam, who's already doing similarly. Again, he's already out there, and so it's a doable thing. As a community leader, yes, his organization is All Good Living, and if you want, I can pull up details for the All Good Living. Okay, thank you. Number 7, launch a hate incident reporting and resource awareness campaign. Since 211 already tracks it, so all we have to do is just do the outreach. Number 8 ties in as well. Host an intergenerational belonging in Alameda community gathering during the National Night Out, partnering with the city, police, fire, city council, and maybe even trying to get some discounts on permits. And lastly, produce an annual AUAH findings and recommendations report to include in the collected data in the biannual community needs assessment. And so a lot of these are kind of overlapping with the other groups. So I think it's a good combination, and we'll probably find some good overlap.
Okay. So you guys already went through and created your SMART goals. We clearly have not quite created our SMART goals. We haven't gotten there. Right. Yeah. I think, do we want to give do we want to go through and try and identify what the tasks are for your so that we actually have a work plan? Or is everyone tuckered out?
I think the overarching goal is building relationships with community organizations and really, I would say maybe tabling at events to create that awareness and it could be something I know we just had locally the library con, right? So it was something as simple as we could have maybe had a table there with all the resources, like who we are, right? You had Pride Alameda, right? We could have done something at Pride and maybe focus on that target group of LGBTQ plus, right? So just opportunity to partner with different organizations when we think about who we are. I mean, we're serving all of Alameda and we are touching very different and unique target groups. Yeah, and I think that's where the overlap is, right? And again, oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think of our overall also of like we're kind of circling around this is we want those who are in need and suffering to know where to go to get help. Yes. So I think like the main that those who are in crisis and suffering whether it be discrimination, violence, housing insecurity, that they know where to go to get support and that the community is aware of their needs, right? That's like the main thing that we want to do that is that we're going to be the linker and we're going to be the listener. Does that sound like what we're like linking and listening? And the belonging is that we as a community, we are supporting our community to be more engaged, linking and listening, and then that our community is better connected. So that in that community better connected, that then when they see someone, they know how to respond, they know. So I think that's our main deal. Does that feel right to people that like that's what we're doing? Because we're not service providers, we're not doing, but that's our job. Is that the citizens are better connected to each other, to resources. And we could, I think, and we also like, no one's talking about all the CBD thing we're going to be doing. I keep on wanting to call it the club in New York. Yeah. I mean, that's separate, all this stuff. Yeah, everyone's okay. But I think that's our linking aspect, right? It's we're like
Trying to better understand.
Yeah.
And what sort of providers are coming to.
Yeah.
What
belong at home.
Are there any public comments on this agenda item? Awesome. Any more comments from the board? Okay. No, I mean, we've accomplished the goals. I was just, the only thing I was thinking of, is there anything in our accomplishments and opportunities that we did not put onto our list? The policy piece. That's the only thing. It's not a task. Can we just add it to staff report if there's anything that's coming up for votes? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Something there about, because a city council board, when they're doing policy, making votes on policy, that's within our purview of like maybe we, yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's the thing, is that when we are supporting, yeah, like,
Could you let us?
yeah,
know
that
not- yeah.
we could do a support. But like support. That would. And then we could go off of city council, like, I don't know if that, like.
Or like sometimes I do is like send it out to everyone I know and be like, hey, you should write to what your city council member about this item.
No. I generally would say just a volunteer. I would think volunteer, right? We're volunteers in our community. That's all it really needs to be. Doesn't have to be just shrub. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe the city clerk, with the campaigns that are going to be happening in November, should have sent you a document about conflict of interest and like what you can or cannot do as a board or commission. Like you can't promote a candidate, or you can't lobby for specific, or fund, I don't know, or donate money. Did I just say that? Or donate money to a specific candidate from like as a shrub board member. So you should have received that. Right, but I think it's more around like elections that it gets a little sticky. But the other items, I believe it's all fine.
We also asked whoever is elected as new mayor, come talk to our board. Whomever is elected to mayor that we could somehow have there and talk about their policy goals and if we, yeah.
We're moving on to item number 5, staff communications.
Sorry, you said staff communications. Okay, here we go. I really think I'm hard of hearing, for the record. Like, it's it's an ongoing joke with some of my closest friends. Like, I'm like, I think that's why I talk so loud. Okay, so, huh? But that would require steps. Okay, so staff report. I am Grecia Manayon from Housing Human Services, here to provide your staff updates. So, Dignity Village RFP. So, HHS, Housing and Human Services Division, is finalizing a request for proposal to solicit qualified developers and service providers to transform the existing interim homeless shelter, Dignity Village, into a permanent supportive housing site, or alternatively, transition the program to a hotel-based permanent supportive housing model within the city of Alameda. The initiative is intended to expand long-term housing opportunities paired with supportive services for individuals experiencing homelessness while identifying a financially sustainable operating model for the program. The RFP is scheduled for release soon. The RFP is scheduled for release soon, the request for proposals. So once we put out a request of proposals, we accept proposals from potential developers to convert the housing. This is for Dignity Village. Financially, the grant that was funding it the last 5 years has run out. So if we wanted to stay open, we have to find alternatives. I will be completely honest. I don't know all of the financial aspects. I know generally that is why it's being transitioned. This is something that's managed by Simone, and I'm happy to send more information. Yeah. Typically, an RFP does not go to city council. It's once you select a developer and then you want to create a contract with them, that goes to council. I don't know, Simone. The question is city council going to review the change of Dignity Village being changed from interim shelter to permanent supportive housing? I believe the answer is no.
Can you all hear me?
Do you mind? I can't see. I think she's trying to speak, but I feel like oh yeah, she unmuted, but we can't hear her.
Can you hear me, Shelby, close up? No. Okay.
Hmm. Man, I hope the recording can hear us. Oh, hold on, I have her here. Simone, I'm putting you on speakerphone.
Okay, it's too much to try to type. Can you hear me? Okay. So, Dignity Village was funded through a state grant and partially through a federal grant. Those funds are going to run out in 2027. Then there's an additional 1.2 million funded from the general fund, which will get it through 2028. But after that, the program will not have funding. And so it will be city council's decision if they want to continue to provide general fund to fund the program as a transitional housing program, Or alternatively, we can seek additional funding from the state to transition the program to permanent supportive housing, which is something the state is doing right now, is funding projects to transition them from transitional housing to permanent supportive housing. And if we do that, the project is much more sustainable because the supportive services are a lower cost for a permanent supportive housing model. And the reason why is because transitional housing makes no income, but permanent supportive housing, people pay 30% of their income so that those funds can then cycle back into the program and help fund the program. So the reason why we're looking at this conversion is just to be able to sustain the program and not lose the beds altogether. But ultimately, it will be City Council's decision.
So the question is the impact to the service care, the impact to the system of care when we reduce the number of shelter beds and move it to permanent supportive housing.
So we would lose shelter beds and gain low income affordable housing beds. So it would be a trade-off.
We can talk about that. I'm just thinking that the size of the rooms over there is very small and there are no cooking facilities inside of any of the rooms. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, the rooms are very small. They have no cooking facilities inside the rooms. And that means that it would be, it just feels like for permanent housing, for somebody that would have to stay there long term, that might not necessarily be the type of place that's really conducive for long-term housing. I'm just saying, it's okay, but go for it.
This is why we do it in council chambers. There would have to be, the units would have to be combined. So we would end up with a lower number of units because you are correct. That would not qualify as a full home. And there has to be at least a kitchenette. And so for us to fit a kitchenette, that would involve potentially combining some units. But this is why we're doing an RFP so that we can have proposals and have different options because the developers might have ideas. The question is they would not be if they would be SROs, and I believe the question is no. The answer is no. Is that correct, Simone?
They would not be considered SROs.
It's a hotel room style or dorm room style. Yeah, for the public, for the record.
Finalized, but right now, what it includes are 3 options. One option is to convert the existing site to permanent supportive housing, which would mean that you have to combine units to make them larger and add kitchenettes into them, or completely redevelop the site. The second option is to secure a hotel site like extended stay, which would include its own kitchenette and bathroom in it. And the third option would be to propose something completely different that would be able to transition the households at this current location to some other permanent supportive housing site. So it's an open-ended option for the developer to propose something new.
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just trying to understand. So like if the person that's responding to the proposal says that they're going to move folks to a different site or develop a different site, the current site of Dignity Village would then be kind of abandoned in its current state, vacant in its, excuse me, thank you, vacant in its current state for either additional programming or funding some point, or, sorry, that's it.
The proposal opts to do the extended stay option, would Dignity Village remain vacant, or what would happen to Dignity Village?
Yeah, I mean, it's all up in the air at this point. It would all be based on negotiations. Potentially, the site would be repurposed for something else, but it depends on the result of the RFP and who we select and what those final negotiations are. Most likely, the land would be relinquished to the developer to redevelop.
Okay. Hard pivot. So I did mention that one of our staff, Yasmin Obaidi, received a promotion to full-time last time. You all might know Yasmin. She's been working behind the scenes in our division for I think about 4 years now, as one of our youngest staff, also one of the more seasoned staff. So I just wanted to read this blurb because she's so valuable and so hardworking in our division and such a deserved promotion. The Housing and Human Services Division is pleased to announce the promotion of Yasmin Obaidi from a part-time position to the full-time permanent role of Administrative Technician 2. During her time with the division, she has supported nearly every functional area, the housing side and the homelessness side, outreach side, the federal grant side, shrub, everything. Consistently demonstrating a strong work ethic, professionalism, and commitment to the city's mission. Following a highly competitive recruitment process, Yasmin was the top candidate based on her qualifications, experience, and proven performance. Her promotion recognizes her valuable contributions to the division, and we look forward to her continued success in serving the city of Alameda. And then the next update is the launch of the Open Door Cafe. HHS has launched the Open Door Cafe at the main library. The program meets every Tuesday and provides unhoused Alameda residents with access to community resources, educational workshops, and supportive services in a welcoming environment. Participants also receive a meal and opportunities to build social connections, helping reduce isolation and promote engagement with available services. And part of this was actually part of the summer internship for the 2 interns we hosted these last few weeks. They helped to design and launch this program. They also shadowed engagement specialists, and then our intern that unfortunately you weren't able to meet, but she did also assist in the preparation of this meeting. And that concludes my staff updates.
Completely lost track of my script. This is why I'm not president. Sorry. All right. Do we need to ask for comments to the staff report? Okay. Board communications and non-agenda items.
So last time I was here, or last time when we met, I spoke about Dr. Acker and the Child Unique Montessori School, and that we were hopeful that we would find some means for her to be able to continue to do what she was doing with the students. She's been a valuable asset in our community. The people that have come out of her schools have gone on to work within AUSD, and the students have come out have been some of the best students in the city. And we've had her students win the speech contest more often than any others. And unfortunately, there was no option available, despite reaching out to several different groups and organizations from secular to religious. We were not able to find anyone who was willing to work with them. So she is in process right now of trying to do some digging around with a possible what is it, the Marina Village folks over there. I don't know where that's going to go, but it's been a bad run, and I don't see her having an option really pretty soon here by the end of this week, maybe next week. So if you really want to see Alameda in action, I would say look to the people around you and ask them if they know somebody who can work with it, because right now she's been getting doors opened and closed in her face. One, they'll say yes, and then they'll turn around and say no. And it's just wrong for somebody who's made valuable uh, time here in Alameda. She's worked with us even as part of the Shrub Board, doing uh, one of our speaking engagements. She was a wonderful resource. She's still a wonderful resource, and I think we're doing the city a disservice if we don't take care of the people like her in our environment. Thank you.
Any other?
Okay, so I mentioned this in our group part of our meeting tonight. Last Friday, I had the humbling opportunity to participate in a ride along with Alameda County Healthcare for the Homeless outreach team. Really amazing folks and amazing work that the county is doing. Honestly, just building trust, coordination, and just being persistent to keep in contact with these folks, especially with the abatement. Providing medical care, behavioral health services, and housing services and other support to our neighbors. And again, just reinforced the collaboration efforts between healthcare, social services, and the broader community. So really enjoyed my time, and it was, again, really humbling opportunity. I went out with, see, it was a full team, so it was Phoebe. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I think we are ready to adjourn our meeting at 8:42 p.m. Thank you guys for sticking with me.
Oh, thank you.